Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to the second part of our The Rise of Urban Air Mobility Unlocking the Future of the Skies. This is part two. My name is Nicholas Zart. I am the founder of Electric Air Mobility and also, I guess, its CEO. And for those of you who might not know me very well, I've been around for almost 18 years professionally in the electric mobility industries and world. So I've seen a few things that happened, and as of 2014, I switched over to what we didn't even call advanced air mobility at the time. We just called it eVTOLs and UAM, basically electric air mobility. And so today, what we do at Electric Air Mobility LLC is we offer solutions around vertiports, including energy production, management, storage, and of course, electric aircraft and all of the management systems around that. So in the first part, we looked a little bit into, first of all, what advanced air mobility means, but mostly in the sectors of its two main operations, which are UAM and RAM. So UAM is urban air mobility, and that's traveling within a city, maybe a city to an airport if it's close enough. And regional air mobility is we think more in terms of city to city. So in this case, if you live in New York, think of going to Boston or Washington, D.C. If you live in Los Angeles, think of San Diego, Oakland, San Francisco. Paris would be Lyon. So on and so forth. You kind of get the idea. Hopefully, you get the idea. And I hope you're here to learn more about everything. Today, we're going to talk about vertiports. What are vertiports? What do they mean? What will it look like? And this is something that we do at Electric Air Mobility because we partner with big international OEM aerospace companies that have been around for a long, long time. My main business partner is from the airport industry. She's a Part 135 certified operator. So together we just bring in the best of both worlds, myself coming in from the electric mobility world and her from the more traditional part of the industry. So when we talk about, you probably have heard, the words eVTOLs, UAM, and you might have heard the word vertiport. So what is a vertiport? A vertiport essentially is a modernized heliport or an airport, maybe a smaller airport at first. But think of vertiports as the future hubs for mobility and energy convergence. So this is where the flow of travelers will be regulated. Where do they come from? Where are they going? Who are they part of? What their memberships are part of? Who are they flying with? What kind of cars do they drive? All the way down to what kind of movies and series they like to watch, what kind of food they like to have to watch. This is very important. We'll talk more about that in part three, where we talk about the management of all this data. But these vertiports will also be energy production centers, right? So there are mobility hubs, but there are also energy convergence centers. And of course, with so many electric vertical takeoff and landing eVTOLs, electric short takeoff and landing eSTOLs, and electric conventional takeoff and landing eCTOLs aircraft, a lot of them are going to be hybrid in the beginning, right? Meaning electricity so far, A-OK, except, battery energy density, right now we're hovering around, 240 kilowatt hour packs. That's enough for UAM, strict UAM operations for people in or for passenger in an aircraft. And making sense of that financially is a little tricky. So a lot of companies have opted for hybrid solutions. So either piston-driven motors or generators or turbines. Some of them are directly linked to a propeller or a generator feeding electricity in a battery pack that are used for the electric motors. Makes a lot of sense. But in order to do all this, it means that when we design vertiports such as the ones that we're designing in the Middle East right now, we're designing an international vertiport network, we have to take in consideration what they will need for the future. Of course, we're talking about charging stations. Of course, we're talking about Jet A and everything that we've looked at into the other article. But now I'm going to talk about the different types of vertiports and how they differ. We're going to talk about them in order of appearance, which most likely will be, at first, we'll have vertistops. And vertistops are a completely scaled down version of a vertiport. It might have, well, it should have a passenger shelter. It should have, of course, one or two landing pads, and landing pads in our lingo are called vertipads, right? As much as you have helipads, well, we have vertipads. But they might not necessarily have any kind of energy infrastructure. On a bigger scale, and once our the vertistops that we're designing, by the way, are scalable to become vertiports, right? And our vertiports are scalable to become vertihubs at one point or another. So once we have a very limited vertistop, then we can get into the vertiport larger scale of things. So vertiport will include at least one terminal, maybe even two. Two or more vertipads. I would say maybe five vertipads. You know, that's the way we're looking at it so far. And of course, energy sources, electricity, hydrogen, and any kind of sustainable fuel that we're going to see in the near future. The granddaddy of them all, and the one that's about maybe 10 years away from now, even though we've seen plenty of wonderful graphics and plenty of wonderful mouth-watering, beautiful vertihubs, and these are going to be the big ones, you know, the 10 to 15 vertipads, the 2 to 3 terminals, the bus stations under, the cars driving in, the boats not too far away, the train station and the metro station. You know what I mean? Those kind of vertihubs. These are going to be much closer to how we think of a big international airport, except that these will be closer to downtown. Again, because we are talking about, for the most part, vertical takeoff and landing machines, electric, eVTOL, which really, although most likely they're not going to operate like this, you know, like most helicopter, they will come in at an angle and then touch down. That means they can be much closer to cities. But the strategic location of these vertiports is extremely crucial, and that's the first thing we look into. We work with companies that help us determine what is the best topographical location for these. You know, is it on an incline? Is it, you know, what kind of wind situation are there? We work with True Weathers to give us the micro weather solutions around what is happening there. But we want to make sure that they are the closest possible to energy sources. You know, the closest to a substation. So this actually brings us into the vertiport energy and, you know, advanced air mobility, energy management, thorny questions. And that's something that not a lot of companies think about, although of course everyone's thinking about it. But this is, I haven't seen a lot of strategic rationaling around that. So we have a pretty good solution so far. And it's based upon the fundamental that, you know, electric aircraft demand significant electrical power, and vertiports must be strategically positioned to make sure that they can have enough energy. So that means that, for the most part, a lot of vertiports will be in what we consider now to be secondary airports, maybe tertiary airport, that have a lot of space. They have a lot of space for solar farms, in some case wind farms if, you know, they're far enough from any traffic. Hydro, I'm thinking of you guys out there in Canada right now, and even what we are very interested about, because I'm French originally, so I'm not scared of that, but small modular nuclear reactors, SMRs. These are a fourth generation of nuclear reactors today, and they're shrinking in size, meaning at some point very soon, in a few years, we'll see SMRs that will be able to power, if not one vertiport, at least a network of vertiports. And I'm here specifically interested in molten salt technologies, as these nuclear reactors will be able to function 20 to 40 years without adding any fuel, and little to no proliferation. Of course, it's always possible, but it's just too difficult, and are going to be extremely safe and clean, at least much cleaner than the utilities that we have today, including the nuclear energy centrals that are generation 3. So this is a very big thing, but this is how we design our vertiports, is we're really looking at the space allocation for charging stations and battery storage, hydrogen production and hydrogen storage, and of course all different kinds of liquid fuels, and also nearby SMRs, or small modular reactors. Just think about this, and this goes back to what we were saying before. Vertiports are not just mobility hubs, they're energy hubs. And this means that vertiport owners and operators will be able to, well, resell their electricity to the grid, right? This is going to open up myriads of different income streams for these operators and owners of vertiports. What we also do is we make sure that all of this comes with a management system that, of course, allows you to charge at night when electricity is plentiful, it's more affordable, you're not taxing the grid, you store it, and then next day you're able to release that. First of all, you're able to use that energy for yourself, whether it's electricity, hydrogen, or anything else, and the rest you can resell it back to utilities. Now think about this. This is really the energy hub part that I was talking about, and that's why we work very closely with very big OEMs. I'm not going to name who they are, but they're household names, right? And they operate all over the world, and some of them are hydrogen. They help us make our hydrogen. They help us with our charging stations, and they also help us with our smart grid capabilities. If you don't know what smart grid capabilities are, think about it as a load balancing hub where you have some of the local energy that you store locally there, you use for your own traffic, for your EV tolls and your EVs and your electric boats, whatever, and then the rest you can sell the difference to, or what's left, to utilities. So this is really interesting to look at vertiports in this angle. Of course, all of this needs energy management, and this is something we'll look at in part 3 of this. I want to talk a little bit about the terminals, because terminals, when it comes to vertiports, are going to be very different from what you and I are accustomed to when we go to an airport. It's not going to be these big terminals with 90 gates to airplanes or anything like that, at least not for now. Maybe in 15, 20, 30 years, who knows? Hopefully I'll still be around to look at this. Might be in a wheelchair, but hopefully I'll be walking. Terminals, the way we're designing them, are very interesting, because we can't just take an existing terminal and adapt it. Although some heliport terminals can work for us, not all of them can work for us, because the reason is we have to make sure that the vertipads are very well conceptualized, that nothing flies off of the vertipads as far as debris. And helipads, by the way, already do that very well. But we also want to make sure that our terminals are very well insulated from the noise, from any kind of objects flying off from the aircraft taking off or landing. But it's also a place where we're going to do a lot of our traffic coordination. So anyway, so that gives you a pretty good idea of the different types of vertiports, what they will need, and how they will come together. Now, the important part in all of this is the strategic location of these vertiports, and this is something that I love to do with my special companies that determine where the needs are, what the traffic routes are, and not just, by the way, aviation routes, but the automotive routes, the roads, the highways, the maritime ways, and even the railways. We put all of this, we crunch it together, and we find optimized places for all of that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this quick take on what vertiports are. I'm going to try to do more videos like this, as it kind of helps you branch off, and then we'll get into specific and details. I've already started interviewing a few people. I'm going to build it up a little bit more until we can do more of that. But stay tuned for part 3, where we'll delve into the deeper side of vertiport energy and management. So this is really complicated, because again, we live in a very modern world of electronics and things like that. And so we have to look at ideas such as, what does the management system look like? What is the computational need for these kind of operations and its management of energy, traffic, passenger? Well, where will the data be stored? Where will it be analyzed? And all that kind of stuff. This is where my IT background is coming in pretty handy, on top of my mobility background and all of that. So anyway, hope you enjoy this quick little video. I look forward to your comments, to your suggestions. One of these days, I'm going to get to my Patreon page and update it. But if you ever feel you have the heart to send us a coffee, that will help us keep the information free. As this is actually part of a presentation I was supposed to deliver last week in Abu Dhabi in the Emirates. that unfortunately didn't come to fruition. So at least I think I would use it for electricairmobility.news. And for those of you who are interested in the presentation, and I'm more than happy to put it on Patreon for members of Electric Air Mobility. Once again, thank you for watching this, and stay tuned for part two tomorrow, where we'll look at the management of vertiports. My, how exciting!